Some companies are getting massive value from AI. Others, they keep going from pilot to pilot with nothing real to show for it. And the difference between these AI winners and losers is that the winners all use the same system to identify, select, and deploy AI. Your problem is that a traditional AI committee cannot build this system, for reasons that will soon be clear. Instead, you need a very specific team of just 3 people to build this system for your organization. In this video, I'll tell you who they are and what their job is. And good news, you don't need any consultants or new hires. According to a BCG study, just 1 in 20 companies are getting the results from AI that they were looking for. That means 95% of all companies are underperforming on AI. And my frustration is that we actually know what makes the winners win and the losers lose. Everyone, including McKinsey, BCG, Amazon, and Forrester, they all agree that the winning method is to use central rules with local freedom. This allows you to capture the most value while also staying out of regulatory trouble. And companies that use this system include Spotify, whose AI features are used by more than 286 million paying users, Roche, who managed to build a company-wide AI assistant in just 3 months, and even Airbus, who in a very highly regulated industry have used AI to train 10,000 engineers and cut simulation times by 40%. So why do all the AI winners use this exact same organizational structure? That's because AI creates a tension. Every AI project sits at the intersection of 2 forces pulling in opposite directions. Business units want to move fast, capture value, and show real results. Legal, compliance, and works councils, they need to make sure that nothing blows up legally, ethically, or politically. In most companies, these 2 forces, they never really talk to each other. And that causes a pendulum. Innovation theater, department of no. Activity, paralysis. Freedom, control. And they just keep going back and forth. And each swing sends a signal to your organization. It says leadership doesn't have a coherent plan for AI. And eventually people stop taking it seriously. Not because they don't see the potential of AI, but because experience has taught them that in this organization, it never really leads to results. It's called learned helplessness, and it kills more AI programs than bad technology ever will. So too much control kills value, too little control creates liability. So what to do? Well, the companies that get it right, Spotify, Roche, Zalando, Airbus, they don't choose between the 2. They design a system that thrives on the tension and uses it. And this system has many names. Everybody calls it something different. Hub and spoke, federated model, centralized governance with local execution. The name doesn't matter. The idea underneath it all does. Namely, you want a central team that owns all compliance and oversight, while local business units own the actual AI projects. Central rules, local freedom to chase value. That's the system. And it sounds straightforward. It is straightforward. Until you try to build it. Because the mechanics have to work in your specific organization. With your specific constraints. So, the question you should be answering now, who is going to build this system for you? Who is going to make it unique and workable for your organization? Most companies go one of 2 ways. Either they form a committee, or they put one person in charge and just tell them to make it happen. An AI dictator. The committee feels safe. Everyone gets a seat. Legal, IT, finance, HR, the business units. You cover all your bases. But then the first meeting happens. Somebody wants a broad AI vision, somebody else wants their division involved, a third person needs 3 weeks to consult their team. And 6 months later, you have a document that nobody will use. The AI dictator approach fixes all that. Things move fast, decisions get made, but it all comes down to who you appoint. AI is simply too complex for one person to handle. It spans operations, compliance, technology, employment law, finance. No single person can see all of that. And the ones who think they can are usually the most dangerous. And there is a third way, one that actually works. You select a core team, small on purpose, just 3 people who know how to move fast, make hard decisions, and have a personal stake in the outcome because they have real skin in the game. And once they've built the system, they themselves will be a part of it. Now, your instinct is probably to put your head of legal in this room, or your CTO, or maybe your chief compliance officer. That's the wrong move. There's a very specific combination of people that makes this work. Get it right, and you'll have a governance system in 5 days. Get it wrong, and you have a very expensive committee with just 3 members. Now, I know another way is to hire consultants, but AI is so existential to your business, I don't think you should even consider outsourcing such a key process. So let's talk about who these 3 people are. First, you need a business lead. Because at the core of this system is the idea that AI initiatives must be owned by business leaders, not IT, and certainly not an innovation department. Because think about where you actually want AI to work in your company. It's in the teams that serve customers, the ones that manage supply chains, handle finance, run operations. And the people running these departments, they know what's broken, what's too slow, and what should be fixed first. So these are the people who should be driving AI projects. And sure, they can delegate technical work, but ownership should be with these business people. And that has a direct consequence for your governance system. Because if the rules you build don't reflect how these business people actually operate, the rules will be ignored. Or worse, people will quietly work around them. So your first core team member should be a senior business leader. Somebody who has been in the organization long enough to really know how it works. So how do you find them? Well, these are the people who ask the difficult follow-up questions. Also the people who are willing to help their peers be better. But they should be critical. You're not looking for a pessimist who will simply block everything, but you also definitely don't want somebody who gets too excited about technology for its own sake. You want somebody who gets excited when they see real solutions to real problems and has the personality and character to follow up on them. And that is exactly the energy you need in governance design. When your core team, this business lead and the other 2, are writing the rules, it is this person's, responsibility to say, this will never work, or yes, we can deal with this. They keep the system honest. And after you finish building this governance system, ideally they are your first test case. The first person to take an AI initiative all the way through the system that they've helped design. So pick someone who fights for results, not someone who fights for consensus. The second person you need is your AI chief, where the business lead ensures that the governance system works for the business. The AI chief ensures that it works for all the compliance departments. Think of them as mirrors to each other. The business lead fights for a system that business units will actually use. The AI chief fights for a system that gives regulatory concerns a proper and actionable seat at the table. Not a veto, not a rubber stamp, a real voice with real decision rights. Your full governance system will have dedicated owners for every major regulatory area: data protection, employment law, cybersecurity, and more. But before any of that can work, somebody has to design the system that these people will operate in. The AI chief does that, together with the business lead and the third core team member, who we'll get to in a moment. And just like the business lead, the AI chief has real skin in the game. After the sprint, they should become one of the regulatory owners themselves. So the AI chief has every incentive to design a system that is both rigorous and workable. Nobody builds a bureaucratic nightmare for themselves. So who is this person? Not your head of IT, not a data scientist. What you need is somebody who has delivered complex cross-functional projects before, and who understands how your organization actually makes decisions. And technical affinity helps, obviously, but credibility, stamina, and the ability to see around corners, that's what you actually need in the design room. And it has to be an internal person, someone the organization already trusts. Because half of what this person contributes happens in conversations before and after the sprint sessions. So you now have the 2 sides of AI strategy in the room. Business value on the one side, regulatory compliance on the other. And that tension is exactly what you want. Remember, the companies getting results from AI don't resolve this tension. Their whole system is designed to run on it. But that only works if neither side dominates the other. And this is where it gets psychologically interesting. There's a book called The 5 Dysfunctions of a Team, which is probably the most widely read book on team dynamics. Anyway, in this book, the core finding is that the single most destructive force in any organization is not poor strategy or bad execution. It is territorial behavior between people who should be on the same side. And here's why it's so destructive. When two people disagree on whether to go left or right, they argue on the merits. One direction is faster, the other is safer. They can debate and decide, and the relationship survives. But when two people fight over who gets to hold the map, who gets to make the decision, that fight becomes personal. It stops being about the decision. It becomes about who is more competent, more trustworthy, more deserving of authority. And those wounds, they don't heal after the meeting ends. And that is exactly the risk you run when you put a business lead and an AI chief in a room with equal authority and seemingly opposing mandates. The fights about contents will be fine. But if the fight shifts to who should be the boss, then your governance is dead. That is why personality matters more than expertise when you pick these two people. You want people who will walk into a room, argue their position without flinching, listen to the counter arguments, and then, even if the decision doesn't go their way, will shake hands and execute like it was their idea all along. But personality only gets you so far. Because even the best business lead and AI chief will have moments where the decision is too big, too political, or too expensive for the two of them to make it alone. And that's when you need the third person in the room. Meet the executive sponsor, where the business lead and AI chief argue about what the governance system should do. The executive sponsor decide what it's allowed to do. They are your link to company strategy, the person who knows where the organization is actually heading, including all the tensions and priorities that haven't made it to the all-hands meeting. They make sure that the governance system you're building isn't disconnected from what the business actually needs. But perhaps their most important function is simpler than that. They can make things happen. When this person asks for a meeting, it gets scheduled. When they put something on the agenda, it stays there. When the business lead and AI chief reach a decision that needs budget or organizational commitment, the executive sponsor is the person who can say yes on the spot without asking any further permission. Without this authority, your governance system is a toothless paper tiger. Senior executives are busy. They have their own priorities. And if they weren't part of building this, they have no reason to follow it, and no patience to figure out why they should. They probably won't kill it dramatically, they'll just ignore it. And an ignored governance system is worse than none at all, because it creates the illusion of control while shadow AI just keeps running. So, who is this person? Well, that depends on your company size. If you have fewer than 200 people, this should be the CEO. No exceptions, really. Between 200 and 500 people, the CEO is still ideal, but any C-suite executive with real authority should work. And over 500 people, somebody from the C-suite or a board member with an explicit mandate would be best. And whoever it is, never accept a delegate. The governance you build is only as strong as the trust between the people who built it. A delegate cannot build that trust on somebody else's behalf. Now, you may be thinking, what about legal, IT, compliance, the CFO, HR? These are all people who usually want a seat at the table when you're designing governance. And they'll get one. Just not yet. When you design by committee, you design for politics, not effectiveness. And this core team has some big decisions to make in a very short time. 3 people can do that, 10 people cannot. But here's the thing. If you pick the right 3 people, they already understand all these other perspectives, or they have direct access to get that input quickly. The business lead knows how departments operate. The AI chief knows where the regulatory pressure points are. And hopefully your executive sponsor knows who needs to be brought along and when. You don't need everybody in the room to have everybody's perspective in the room. And here's the final thing. One of the core team's main jobs is to recruit the full AI strategy team. A team of 5 to 12 people, depending on your company size. So the senior executive who wanted to be the business lead they can become a business champion for AI initiatives in their department. And your head of legal, compliance officer, and IT security, they all get their seat as regulatory domain leads. And each will own the area of their expertise. So nobody is being excluded, they're just being sequenced. First, the core team designs the table, and then they invite the people to sit at it and make the further AI decisions. So you now have your minimum viable core team of 3 people. The question is, what do they actually do? How do they design the AI operating model for your organization? Do they just get in a room and figure it out based on what I've just told you? Do they talk through options for the next few months? Do they hire a consultant or commission a report? No. This core team follows a structured 5-day sprint. 5 focused working days that takes them from 0 to a fully operational governance system. One that balances the central control that you need to stay compliant with the decentralized freedom your business units need. How that sprint works, what gets decided on each day, and why the sequence matters, that's the next video. I'll put the link right here.